Or Canada jays, whatever you know them as, they call Maine's mountaintops home. Will Wagner learned more about the species through a recent study at the University of Maine, Augusta on how humans have impacted their behavior.
Canada jays are a social animal and opportunistic feeders. Those who climb New England's mountains may see them begging for or even stealing food, especially before or in the colder months where food becomes more scarce. Some enjoy feeding them, which is helpful to the species directly.
There have been studies that shows that it actually helps the jays themselves because they have to store food for the winter. They breed in high elevations. They don't migrate. So they need stored food to feed themselves and their offspring.
However, the birds have a varied diet. It includes nuts and seeds, but also the eggs and nestlings of other birds that call Maine's boreal forests home. Some of those species are already threatened.
It's actually problematic for more jays to be around because they are nest predators. So nest predators feed on the eggs and or nestlings of other birds and potentially these at-risk birds. So while feeding might be good for the jays, maybe not so good for threatened birds.
It also helps with the reproduction of the jays. So they have more food to feed to their offspring. But for the other birds, they're going after their nests too. More jays is bad for the other birds.
In the end, researchers say not to feed the jays as it may lead to more of them in the forests. An inflated population may lead to overpredation of other bird species in the long run.
What we have found is that there are higher instances of nest predation on our decoy nests in areas where jays are heavily fed with supplementary feeding. So we would say to try not to foster this behavior by trying to avoid feeding jays whenever possible.
Will Wagner, WABI TV5 News, Augusta.